Okay, so this is part 2. Just got to talking about the surface and if it was the same material on a different surface. So now, what if I took, instead of this ball, kind of moving along a little bit.
Okay.
Now we're going to talk about this book, Brian Greene's Elegant Universe. And now I'm going to ask you to apply a little bit of force and slowly increasing on the book. Well, alright, let's kind of do it like more right here. That way you can get the whole thing and just slide off, yeah. And then make it steady. Okay. So now do it again, but in more smooth. Alright. Can you describe just describe what you felt?
As I pushed it across the table, I could feel it incrementally getting easier as I put more force into it, and eventually it just became it moved.
Okay.
Fluidly.
So, what happened when you first started putting force on it?
I could tell there was a mild bit of resistance. I guess because of the rough surface, semi-rough surface,
Okay.
not as easy as like water would have been.
Okay. So, and then what happened like after it started moving?
After it started moving, it became pretty fluid. As I kept that same amount of force on it and increased it a little bit, it became just as easy as it was at first. I mean, as it was as soon as it started moving, seems like there was less of a difference between moving it like this and like this, as there was opposed to just putting a tad bit of force, and then when it finally started moving, it seems like there's less of a difference.
Now, what do you think? So it's the same material on this material right here in both instances when you started pushing and when it was moving.
Going faster.
What do you think was happening in those two instances?
I would say that as I pushed it across the table, this pad transferred energy, the energy that I was pushing forward with, into the table.
Okay.
And eventually there was enough force that it became easy.
Could you draw that like at a really small level? Like, so you got the pad and you got the book.
Mm-hmm.
Like, kind of draw like both instances.
Okay.
And like describe a
Like
little more.
the pad on the table.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this would be. That's the pad.
If you draw like a little bit bigger.
Just a little bit bigger.
Yeah. You got a whole board, so.
Right. This is the pad. The edges are kind of curved. And then this will be the table. And as I push force on it this way, it pushed against the table, kind of like this.
So is each one of those pushing against the?
Yeah, it's constantly like every inch is every bit is pushing against ball base.
Okay. And what do you think at that level? What do you think is different when you first start to push versus when it's moving?
There's more energy being transferred into the table faster. The more I pushed it, the more energy was going from the pad into the table at a quicker rate.
Okay. All right. What if it was a smoother surface?
It would have absorbed less energy, so it would have been easier to push across.
Okay. So now I want you to take just the book by itself, and just give it a little push. Okay, give it a. Oh, here, let me. All right. So just give like a flick like there, yeah. So describe that.
As it ceased to touch my hand, it had that X amount of force, and then as it moved across the table, it transferred what force there was down into the table until it had enough to where it was no longer able to move.
Okay. What if it was and you were saying that this was due to friction?
Yes.
What if it was on a surface that was well, think like ice, okay? It's a really smooth surface.
Okay.
What if it was on ice and you just push it? What would happen?
It would go farther.
All right. What if it was on a frictionless surface?
Frictionless, it would just continue to go.
Okay. Would it just keep going forever, or
Frictionless surface, like zero gravity.
just like zero friction?
Okay, I suppose it would continue to go, keep that same amount of energy, since the energy is not being transferred anywhere. It would just continue to move through space.
Okay. Now, if you had this book and you were pushing it, and you had a weight on it, would it? And it was the same amount of the same materials. Would that change how far it goes when you push it?
And if it was regular friction, you would need more force to push it just as far if it was heavier. If there was
Okay.
no weight on it.
What if? So what if we had this book and we put it on a frictionless surface, but we put a whole bunch of weight on it?
A frictionless surface.
Yes.
It would. If you put a little amount of force, like with if it's a heavier object and a frictionless surface, and you put a small amount of force, it will accelerate slower than if you had put a lot of force.
Okay.
It will continue to go. It will never stop. But just if you put more force on it and zero friction, it'll go faster.
Okay. So like if I put if I had a stool with an elephant sitting on it on this book,
Okay.
would it still go on forever, or would it?
Zero friction.
Yes.
It would still go on forever.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna stop this again just so we don't lose it.